Check. 1, 2. All right, we're rolling. Pre-recorded live from the G Suite in Appleton, Wisconsin. It's the Derek Luna Show. This week, we do some hotel laundry. Plus, an interview with Jeremy Danley from Bar Comedy USA. But now, he's half homeless, half amazing. It's Derek Luna. Yes, that's correct. We're here in Appleton, Wisconsin. And check out the suite they got your boy in. This is the way it always goes when you're doing dates with clubs. And this isn't really a segment, but I did want to show you some hotel laundry where you're a road comic, so you're not really making a lot of money, but then you do a club weekend and the club puts you up. You know, sometimes in the club has a condo, and that's kind of more my vibe because it's, you know, gross. But then sometimes they put you up in a nice hotel room like this. But you still have to get, you know, your stuff done. So check it out. I've been doing laundry. Hanging my drawers up to dry. Where, yeah, you're living like a vagrant. Nice room, though. You're living like a vagrant. Whilst at the same time in a pretty nice room. And so it's a weird way to live. You end up in this weird road comic lifestyle that, I don't know, can't be described really. It's just strange. Half homeless, half amazing. Probably the best. So yeah, that's hotel laundry. That's what we're doing. We're hanging out in a room that's probably too nice for me. And we're in Wisconsin, in Appleton, Wisconsin. And gosh dang it, the last time I was up in Wisconsin, it was 0 degrees. It was 5 below. It snowed so much. It snowed about 8 inches every day. And I was there for a week. And I thought at the time, you know, it's going to be bye-bye snow time for me. I'm going to go down back home to Missouri. I looked at the rest of the calendar. I knew I was coming back up to Wisconsin, but I thought it's going to be late March. Surely, you know, it'll be chilly, but not snow. And yes, it snowed 8 inches almost as soon as we got here. It has warmed up to a balmy 32 degrees during the day, so, and at least it's not any inclement weather. So yeah, we're wrapping up our week up here at the Skyline Comedy Club. Instead of Joe coming out on the road, this week Jeremy Danley came out on the road with us to close the shows out and help run the satellite. And Jeremy is the Jer-Dog, as we all affectionately call him, is the owner-operator of Bar Comedy USA and the Pub and Grub Comedy Tour. Now, some of you guys who are friends of mine or, follow the channel, you guys know I do a lot of work with the Pub and Grub Comedy Tour. I love these bar comedy shows. They're not in comedy clubs. They're in little bars, little small town bars all across the United States. I forget how many he has. We'll get to it in the interview. But they're one-night stands all across the country, and it's a different sort of environment. Not every sort of comic can do a bar show because they're weird and wild sometimes, but I love them. And I've been working for bar comedy for the past 3 years, and I keep talking to Jer-Dog about wanting to get him on the show and talking to me about the start of the whole tour because it's a crazy story. It's inspirational if you're into, comeback tales. And I hung out with him in Vegas. He agreed to sit down with me. So yeah, you're going to get that interview. He also has a book out. I'll plug it here in case I forget later, although I'm sure I'll remember. America's Best Bar Comics. And your boy right here on the cover. Check that out, huh? I've never been in a book, much less featured on the cover, but there it is. So he's got that new book out, and the tour's going great. all sorts of new venues popping up all over the place and helping comics get work, helping venues put together comedy shows. It's good stuff. So enjoy this interview with Jeremy Danley, Jer-Dog, as I call him. And yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Enjoy this interview. Jeremy, Jer-Dog Danley.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Derek
for joining
Luna.
me. I think last year when I was doing the show, I promised like every other episode, I was like, and I'm going to get an interview with Jer-Dog Danley.
And I'm sure people are just anxiously awaiting.
There's not a lot of people who watch this yet. 5 of them are my mom.
Okay.
Shout out, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
But yeah, I kept plugging it. Like, I'm going to finally sit down with it because I kept thinking I was going to run, and then it just never worked out.
Yeah.
But the man, the myth, the legend, Jer-Dog, Jeremy Danley from Bar Comedy USA.
I'm kind of like the Kaiser Sose of comedy.
Yeah.
Like, people have heard of me, but very few have ever actually seen me.
For the longest time, it was like that because I worked for you for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Before I ever met you in person. Like, and I think we had a couple of FaceTime video meetings about things here and there.
Yeah.
But I was until like Vegas last year. I finally met you in person. Was like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's fun doing these satellite shows. It's fun doing the World Series of Comedy and seeing all the comedians that come through because so many of them that I do book, I'm getting actually have this kind of FaceTime with them.
Yeah.
And then they actually can see me get on stage and do my thing. So, not only do they know that I'm not just an AI bot that's booking all these shows and putting all this together, but they know that I can actually do it as well. And so there's a little bit more credibility comes with that.
I didn't really think about it, but I think, you're probably right. You see, I forget what the first time I saw you on stage was probably Dallas.
Okay.
And I watched you close out a handful of shows. And was like, oh, okay. This
Like
guy's got old school chops. Like he's been doing this a long time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Handling guys in the crowd who are being rambunctious and stuff. It was like, very obvious. You know what I mean? If you 5 minutes,
like last night.
5 minutes with somebody on stage, you could be like, okay, this person's done this a long time. Sure.
Yeah. That's why I've always said, I'm like, if I go in to do, say, a guest set somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, I'd need to see you first," I'm like, you're gonna get to see me for 5 minutes tonight. There's nothing that anybody can. I mean, I don't want to say nothing, but it's very rare that someone can completely ruin a show in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd have to do something deliberately obnoxious, offensive, rude to walk people out. But you should also, the flip side of that coin, within 5 minutes, get an idea of where someone's skill level is as well.
I think you said this whenever I first started sending you tapes, is you were like, I can tell that you could do this. You know what I mean? Like, like, I don't have to watch a whole lot before I understand like where somebody's at.
Exactly.
So yeah, it is fun. A lot of these guys that are in, I'll go ahead and plug the book right away.
There you go. Available on Amazon.
Available
America's
on Amazon.
Best Bar Comics.
America's Best Bar Comics. I'll put the info down at the bottom. It's available at Amazon. You just make sure you send me the link. I'll pop it up on the screen.
Okay, cool.
But this is a new book Jer-Dog's put out. It's a collection of mainly guys from the roster, right? Is this all Pub and Grub roster guys?
Pretty much, and there are a few from the World Series that are in there as well, but they're pretty much all comedians that either do the Pub and Grub comedy tour or have done it in the past.
Yeah.
That I wanted to give them a shout out and a place in the book.
And you get a little bio, a couple of jokes from each comic, and then advice to bar comedy.
Yeah. Like what's your approach versus performing in bars versus performing any other type of gig.
Because it is different. I wanted to talk about this. It's a different animal. Whenever I talk to younger comics, especially at like the World Series, I'm like, if you can figure out a way to get in and do different types of shows, specifically bar shows, one-nighters and things like that.
Yes.
Because it just will make you better when you go back to the clubs and vice versa. I mean, like, it just exposes you to a different type of crowd, a different type of show, a different type of audience.
It does. If you do the easy gigs, I think you get weak.
Yeah. There are some club gigs that's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
I don't want to use the word boring, but you get to some where it's the fourth show in the weekend, and it's just been easy.
Yeah.
Crowds are there. They're ready to laugh.
Yeah, and they're also they're well behaved. That the environment is set up perfect with perfect, for the most part. You've got they're seated close. The sound is dialed in. You've got some sort of sense of security and crowd control going on. And those are great gigs. Those are absolutely great gigs. They don't really toughen you up. They don't really give the true. 90% of your shows are not going to be in these ideal situations.
Yeah.
Or
even in a club environment, something wild could happen.
Everything could be perfectly under control, and the waitress drops a tray of drinks. How are you going to handle that?
Yeah.
So if you're in these bar atmospheres, which for the most part on these shows, they're not. It's not like the Blues Brothers where there's chicken wire and people are throwing bottles of beer at you until you break into Rawhide, and then they just throw less bottles of beer at you. There are some of those, but for the most part, we try to do like a comedy club experience, just in a nightclub, tavern, neighborhood restaurant, or bar. They're doing it maybe once a month, but you're a guest in their house. You got to show up. They're expecting a professional comedian, but they're not necessarily showing up as a comedy audience the way they do it at the clubs. They're there because that's where they normally go to drink and play darts and play pool. Yeah. And tonight it's just something fun and different for them. But they also want to participate. There's usually the town clown.
Sure.
He's upset that he's not the center of attention.
He sells insurance usually, or like some profession.
Maybe
like
he's
that.
the dentist.
the dentist.
Town dentist.
I've gotten on a dentist before, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can give them a nickname. And then everybody just now knows them as that nickname, and then you become a legend.
Dr. Scott Bukaki, I apologize. I did not know what I was doing to your dentist practice.
You completely submarined a dental practice in Woodward, Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, hopefully he could turn it around. I don't know. No publicity is bad publicity, I guess.
That's what I say. P.T. Barnum said that, and I believe it.
You said it though. I think that's the biggest difference, is that you're a guest at their house.
Yeah.
It's their party. They all know each other.
That's
a
right.
lot of times they're all family members.
That's right.
So this, you can't even, you're talking about maybe somebody's a little rowdy or wants to get involved. You can't even burn people to the ground because it might be like the bar owner's cousin or something like that. So it becomes this weird, ringmaster of the circus. Like, you got to make sure everybody's having a good time while you're plowing through the jokes. You got to be
diplomatic and yet still shut them down.
Yeah.
Which is what you have to do in a club as well. It's really what you have to do in any comedy situation, where even if they don't all know each other. Like, there was that show I think you're talking about in Dallas where I went after a guy pretty hard, but it shut down the rest of the crowd because they felt like they were intimidated. Even though I was only going after the one guy. And then, Joe
sort of cracked the whip on everybody.
Yeah, they felt like I was just too hard. It makes you unlikable to the rest of
that's a fine line. I've done that before myself, for sure, yeah.
And if you're not trained in that, so if you're just in a club and maybe you haven't been ever heckled, and now you're getting heckled, and you go after them hard, and you roast them good, and you're saying funny stuff, and you're throwing very clever lines at them. If it makes everybody else feel intimidated, you become less likable. You're going to struggle through the rest of your set, which is what it's happened to me many a times. Now, when you go into a bar show where it's a little bit less controlled and they're expecting to participate, you can get good at that. You can practice that there where you're more anonymous. And if you don't do so well, okay, so what? You tanked in, Hastings, Kansas.
Sure,
no one cares. But if you tank at the House of Comedy or somewhere like that, that can get out more and be like, never have that guy back. So it's just good practice, I think. And there's a lot of them out there. It can keep your schedule full as well. You can make a little bit of money.
That's true. Yeah, I make a living on these shows. You know that.
Yeah.
So many. Yeah. example, like when you get out in those situations, anytime I've had a good one, like an audience interaction where it's like, it feels like a trick. Like I taught myself a new magic trick or something.
Yeah.
And after a while, I'm walking around with just a bag full of these. What happens if an ambulance goes by? Well, I've got like 3 kind of good lines,
That's right.
Somebody has too much to drink and won't shut up in the back. Oh, I did this thing up in the UP that I can't wait to wit. You know what I mean? You're no longer scared of those situations or trying to avoid them. In a weird way, you're kind of like, oh man, if this guy says one more thing, I've got the perfect thing. I'm gonna
you know exactly where to go. It's like, and that's a good analogy too. It's like one more tool in the toolbox. You can pull that out when you need it. It's like right now I've only got a screwdriver, but as soon as you get all the other tools, you can build the entire house.
Yeah.
I did a show one time. It was in a bowling alley, and it's middle of Ohio, and the sound and lights went out in the middle of the show. Well, the show must go on. Like I wasn't going to be like, okay, show's over.
It's just you and the sound of pins crashing in the back.
You could hear all that, and I just kept going. I messed with it. It really threw me off my game, but I just kept talking. Now, to your point, it was maybe a month later, and I did another show at a casino in Deadwood, South Dakota. And this is actually on YouTube. So if you just go on YouTube and search how to do stand-up comedy with no microphone or lights,
that's
me.
Will show up.
Yeah. So in a casino, so it was like Ocean's 11, like the lights and everything go out. There's a power outage in the casino of all places, and it stayed that way for 40 minutes. I did 40 minutes with no microphone,
just
or
yelling
lights.
yelling at people.
It was cool because it was a team of construction were there. Then they went out and they got their work lamps.
So the people could at least see you.
Yeah, they were holding them from the front row, shining up on the stage at me. And so had that occurred, that was a big paying gig too, as a casino.
Yeah.
And so if I hadn't had that previous experience in the bowling alley where the sound and lights went out,
you might have bailed on it.
I would have been, I don't know what to do, and then I might not have gotten paid. I'm always scared I'm not going to get paid if I don't do the thing.
That's the ultimate fear, isn't it?
And so I knowing, like just like you said, I had all that, and it just happened. I knew the lines that would work. I knew the lines that wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I just rolled with it. I won them back over, and amazingly, from there, I just did like kind of the rest of my usual set, just with no microphone or lights, and the construction workers shining flashlights on me. Sold a shitload of merchandise
because everybody was probably so impressed.
Yeah,
they're like, this guy dealt with the worst situation possible and just crushed.
They were so appreciative of it, and that's like their way of coming by. And even if they didn't want the shirt, they just wanted to come by and say thank you.
Yeah,
and that's their way of.
I'm always way more impressed when I see a comic deal with some adversity.
Absolutely.
You watch somebody crushing it, that's great. But yeah, whenever the situation, something happens in the show that's a little odd or a little weird, and I see him overcome it, it's like, oh, okay, that guy's good.
I think that's the real life of comedy and live entertainment in general. If you want perfect and polished and everything just goes exactly according to the script, just watch a TV show or a movie.
Yeah.
If you go out to see live entertainment, I think that there's something subconscious about the vulnerability of the situation that subconsciously is attractive to people.
Yeah.
I think that they're not necessarily expecting it, but in the back of their heads, they're expecting a comedian to bomb. They're expecting the waitress to drop the drinks. They're expecting the light to fall from the girder and land in the front row, or whatever it might be. If that presence of vulnerability and imperfection was not there, why live? Why do you go out? You could just watch a comedian on Netflix do a
sprinkle
edited
of danger,
special. Yeah.
When you're there in the room.
Without the danger, what's the appeal?
Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, that's my attitude about it anyway.
That's a good way of thinking about it. So you were telling me in Vegas, you started in on I started prying your brain about the origins of how you got started booking all these, and you told me this tale of the long begotten COVID times.
Yeah.
Where I think you were doing a lot of these you had set up a big tour.
Yeah.
You invested in t-shirts and the whole works.
Yeah.
And COVID just slammed it down.
That's right.
And from there, you started building. Start telling me this story. Tell me how this went down.
Yeah.
Because I found it very inspiring. I was like, now that's a guy getting hit in the nuts and picking himself up and turning it into something.
Yeah. I guess it's funny now. At the time, it definitely felt like a kick in the balls. For a long time I was doing clubs, just like any comedian. You know, you're just taking any gig. You're doing the corporates, you're doing anything. You're doing the birthday parties.
Sure,
you're doing the garage parties. You're doing the clubs. You're doing the one nighters. You're working for this agent or that agent. Everybody's got a different way of doing things. And that's cool. That's just the way it is. This is very much, even to this day, this is very much a Wild West type business.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And so, I just got to the point where I was on the radio. I was in like these, what you would call like the shadow markets, you know. So I had a spot on the Stone and Double T show in Rockford, Illinois, and then that would translate to afternoon. I could do the same material in different radio stations, and so I was like, you know, I got fed up with some of the other people that were involved in the business, where I've been doing this for so long. I know what I'm doing, and then you roll in and here's some rookie running the club that's telling you how to do comedy.
Yeah.
That's telling you what the business. I'm like, you've been at this a day. Like, I get it. That's how things go here, but that is not the grand scheme of all.
And I'm probably
you're
probably seeing a lot of mistakes they're making too. Being like, if I was running this,
I always thought that. I'm like, how the hell do these people, whether it's no matter what the venue is, a bar, a club, I'm like, how the hell do these people have a bar? How the hell do these people have a club? And I don't.
Yeah, how's it still open?
Yeah, I don't get it. And they probably weren't going to be open now. Yeah. I mean, the good ones will be, but the bad ones, they quickly go out of business. And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to go on my own. I'm just going to do my own thing. And I started promoting myself like what you would call a four-wall experience, where you four-wall the show. Like, you take just the ticket money.
Yeah.
And I was doing that, and then they say, hey, we want to do this more. This was great. And so then I had like a handful of those places that I was going, okay, I'll send you other comedians, but they're probably not going to want to work for the door. You're going to need to do a rate for. You're going to need to have a guarantee for.
Yeah.
Most comedians won't do a door deal.
It's scary.
It is scary.
It's scary.
You know, I had a lot of success with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing, and then leading up to what you were talking about, where I had the system down pat, dude. I could go into more details, but I had it down.
You had it rocking.
Yeah, it was going, and it wasn't like every show was gangbusters, but it was. Let's say one night didn't do so well. The next night, when 200 people are there at $20 a pop, that pays for a lot of the places that don't do well. So it's like you
can put some more bets on the table because enough of them are hitting.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So,
by the way, side plug, roulette channel. Yeah. the best roulette channel in the business.
The funniest one, anyway.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if you'll make any money off the strategies, but you'll have fun listening to the sound effects.
Yeah, I didn't mean to distract you. Sorry, I just thought of that.
So, I mean, I was just cranking, and it was April of 2020.
Yeah.
And that's the time of year we're going into the slow summer season.
Yeah.
And I got this idea from WrestleMania. Do you know why they invented WrestleMania way back in the 80s? Because the summer was slow, just like it is in comedy.
Oh, they're trying to invent something.
So they wanted the big end of the spring event going into the summer to help carry them through.
Yeah.
And then continue to create interest. So I'm like, that's what we got to do in comedy. Like, we need like big events at the end of the busy season to sort of carry us through the summer.
Yeah.
So April of 2020, first of all, it's 4/20/20.
Right.
And I'm Jer-Dog, the wake and bake party animal.
Yeah.
Stoner comic. I lined up, just for the symbolism of it, I lined up all the best shows and best venues that I had from the previous 2 years. I had like 8 or 10 of them on the books. These were all places that I knew would sell out because they already knew who I was. They were anxious for the return.
Sure, yeah.
And we're also promoting as, 4/20/20 shows and all this, right?
Yeah.
So go on vacation in the beginning of March and middle of March to sort of decompress a little bit before I get into that big swing of doing all those shows in April. Get my stuff together, and that's when all the new COVID,
you got your bets on the table.
Coronavirus.
You take a breath as the wheel starts spinning, and then COVID hits.
But you just wipe all the chips into the garbage.
You're just like, oh my God. You had T-shirts printed. You had so much.
No, luckily I didn't do the merch. I was like a day away from ordering the merch.
Oh, so scary.
Yeah. And before it was a joke. Oh, this coronavirus thing. And I'm seeing people like post memes where they've got like the corona isolated from the rest of the beers in the cooler. And
oh man,
like
yeah.
So it was just kind of a joke. I wasn't that worried about it at all. But while I'm on vacation, which first of all, we shelled out money to go on vacation with the family.
Sure,
so that was like money I wish I would have had back.
Yeah.
had I known that this was all going to go down.
You're like on vacation taking drinks out of people's hands.
Oh.
It's like, so stressful.
And my wife was like, "What are we going to do, Jeremy? What are we going to do?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like for the first, because I'd always told her, I go, if this comedy thing doesn't work out, I can always go back to street busking. I can but no one's ever gonna stop going to bars. Like
you would think.
People always go out drinking.
Oh man,
you would think.
That's
I
so
did not
scary.
predict a zombie virus would attack the earth. So I'm just watching one by one these shows disappear, and the 2 weeks turns into 2 months, turns into 2 years.
Sure.
Right? So over the course of that summer of 2020, not only did I not have the shows that I wanted, the income that I wanted, I don't have any other real marketable skills other than self-promotion.
Yeah.
And making people laugh. If you give me a crowd, I can do something with it.
Yeah.
But when you've got an environment where crowds aren't allowed. Not even street busking is going to work.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Las Vegas, because I went to Fremont Street one of the times I visited. I'm like, oh, babe, if all else fails,
Vegas is open.
Yeah, like I can do street busking.
Vegas is open for business.
So I went into probably. I don't think I've ever considered myself a depressed person or have we all got mental issues as comics, but I wasn't like, oh, I've got mental. I've just always been like positive, ready to go, even when like things don't go well. It's like just pick up the pieces,
roll
positive
with the punches,
attitude.
Yeah.
You just keep playing, just keep going. You can't quit. And now I was forced to quit, sitting in my basement, deep dark depression, angry at everybody, angry at the world. Why is this is just so angry, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I'm watching Netflix. This is the real crux of the story.
Yes.
Sitting there just watching Netflix after Netflix after Netflix, drowning my sorrows in trying to escape the reality of the situation, trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Try not to watch Tiger King.
Because you don't even know. Right. I watched Tiger King all the way through twice. Yeah. And what are you going to do? Because you don't even know the comedy's coming back. I had even at one point thought that I had shook my last hand. I had never thought I was going to shake another hand ever again. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I call these moments like pick yourself up off the mat moments. Where it's like you don't know if you got it.
You don't even know.
Do I have it in me to pick myself up off of the mat after getting hit this hard?
And I do have that in me, but for what? Now I'm picking myself off the mat. There's no one there to fight.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I watched that movie Moneyball, which is about
Billy Bean.
Billy Bean, the GM of the Oakland A's, puts together this crew of misfit players. At first, they can't really get it together, but by the end of the season, they win 20 games straight.
Yeah.
And everybody's doubting him all along. And Billy Bean was what's called a five-tool player, but never became a superstar. So he could hit with power, he could run, he could field, he could throw.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, it's like that's the big backstory is Billy Bean was the big safe bet, and coming out of college, all these teams thought he was going to be great. Yeah. And he just never really turned into that.
He was okay. He wasn't terrible. He was just kind of mediocre. Yeah. And it was the pressure. If you read the book, he talks about it's the pressure of the game that if he could just be relaxed, in practice sessions,
Yeah.
things like that, he's crushing it. But the pressure of the game,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, he didn't rise to the star that everybody expected him to be. So I'm like, well, that's kind of what I am in comedy. Like, I'm a 5-tool guy. Like, I can host, I can headline, I can write. You're kind of a 5-tool guy.
Sure, yeah.
You can write, you can perform, you can improv.
Yeah.
You might see 2 or 3 of those in any given comedian, but it's very rare you see all 5.
Yeah.
Just like in baseball, you might get 2 or 3 of those skills out of a baseball player, and then they're trying to develop another one, but you rarely see all 5 of those tools.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man. And then in the movie, there's a quote where he's like, I'm done with baseball. And they're like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to be a scout. And they're like, well, that's just weird. And so I'm like, that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be the scout. Like, I'm going to go.
You know a ton of these comics.
Yes. I know how to produce these shows. I know how to promote shows. I know I've been all over the place. I know a ton of comics. The Misfit. You know, the island of misfit toys that are not superstars, but you put them in the situation, they can play the game.
Yeah.
And they just never got the big break.
Yeah. There's a lot of comics out there that you would say overlooked, I guess would be the word, where it's like there's maybe somebody else who's a big star who, can do a little bit of, but some of these guys that haven't gotten a big break or whatever have just hours of great material and can do all these great things on stage, and they're just not getting as many opportunities.
They know how to handle the hecklers. They know, but maybe they don't have the right look. Maybe they're not the flash in the pan. They're not the
money ball analogy. They're guys who get on base.
They're guys who get on base.
To use the money ball analogy.
That's right. And they hit the stats, and that's what wins you the game. But in the meantime, they're overlooked by the rest of the industry for all kinds of biased reasons. And that's the same in comedy, at least from my perspective. There's so many talented performers that are just overlooked and undervalued for biased reasons.
Yeah. I talked to you about the people hate the guitar comedians. I play guitar in my act. I had to stop. I've had better success sending submission videos that didn't have the guitar.
Yeah.
But you've seen my act. It's like a really good part of my act.
It's one of the best parts, and it's super funny.
I close with the stuff, and anybody who gives it a chance usually is on board. But people wouldn't even watch videos because bookers have this.
They're biased.
They're biased about
it. For whatever reason. They've got the sense of what comedy in its purest form should be. And it's like, for me, it should be anything that makes them laugh.
Yeah, you're watching the audience.
Yeah. If it works, keep it.
This guy's getting on base.
Yeah, he's getting on base.
Yeah.
That's what, you can keep looking for A-Rod. Good luck affording them.
Yeah.
And good luck if they actually meet the stats when the A-Rod probably did meet the stats, but some of them that you're trying to imagine what they're going to be like, and they're not necessarily going to be that way.
Yeah.
But if you see someone such as yourself that's just got a solid show, I don't care what you do up there. As long as people are liking it and they keep coming back for more, that's all you want.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that'll because of what I know, what you just said, I know how the rest of the industry is. I'm like, I'll carve the path for the team of misfit toys that wants to all be on an island together, that wants to just do good, just get on base, do good shows, keep them coming back, leave them wanting more. And
pass the baton to the next comic.
That's right.
Next month they're going to do another show. Take care of that show.
And then the venues you go to, they're appreciative of it because they rarely get that type of performer.
They get overlooked themselves.
They get overlooked as well. So it's a perfect blend. And it creates a team mentality, which sincerity, and we're all in this together. That's a very easy disguise that a lot of comedians put on. But they're all. I know you're out for yourself because I'm out for myself.
Yeah.
Like, let's just call it what it is. And I made that point once last year. I go, I know you're selfish, and he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, here's how I know you're selfish. You're not talking to me right now for me. You're talking to me right now because of what you think I might be able to help you with.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
And that's fine.
That's human
we're all
nature.
That way. So, but in this way, we're actually creating a team mentality. Like this, it's very important for that venue that show goes well.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, they're embarrassed. It's very important for the comedians that it goes well, because if it doesn't, that's one less venue that the other comedians get to perform at.
Yeah.
You made that point. Like,
I think about it every show I do for the Bar Comedy USA. I think about it. It's like, if I do well at this, and then the next 10 comics do well at this, I get to come back next year.
That's right.
This is a paycheck waiting for me next year. As long as everybody on the team, everybody in the batting order does a pretty good job and gets on base, pushes it along.
Yeah, you don't have to hit home runs. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just get on base. Just get the job done. Everybody will be happy because you'll get those wins.
Yeah.
And so I go, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the Oakland A's of stand-up comedy.
The Oakland A's of comedy.
And so I've always used, like, since I got, since that clicked with me, I've always tried to use like baseball and locker room analogies for how to do this. Even when I'm talking to a bar owner about it, they follow sports.
They get it.
They're going to resonate more with that analogy than if I tell them some green room story from the Irvine Improv.
Yeah.
So they understand it better when you talk in those terms. And then here's what's interesting. A couple years later, when I moved to Las Vegas and I get invited to come be a guest judge at the February Satellite in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I meet Jason Rowland.
Yeah.
And we've got the World Series of comedy blue T-shirt with the parody of the MLB logo.
Yeah, he's a huge baseball fan, Jason Rowland.
And so I go, it's interesting that you have this logo, because I was trying to get my graphic designer to do a logo just like it.
Yeah.
He couldn't grasp the concept. And so I wound up with the logo that I have, which is all right. It's just a logo.
Yeah.
But I was like, I really want this shirt, just because that was the logo that I had in mind when I put all this together. And I told Jason the story about how I created Bar Comedy USA and the Pub and Grub Comedy Tour by being inspired by watching the movie Moneyball and the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
And then Jason goes, well, that's really funny, because I used to work for one of their minor league divisions. Yeah. And so I was like, no kidding. And he's like, yeah, back in those days too, when the guy who was writing that book was looking for examples of where he could talk about this thing called sabermetrics.
Sabermetrics and analytics, yeah.
Analytics. And they were like, we've got a guy here that's doing that right now. So he went there, hung out with the team for, I think a year or whatever it was, wrote the book.
Yeah.
And then the movie came out a few years later. But I'm like, wow, what a crazy coincidence that is. So, I knew Joe Lowers, and
you'd worked with him in the past.
Way in the past,
like
20 years ago. So that was a cool connection to make again. And then to make the connection with Jason, who was part of, in a way, indirectly at least, that whole minor league, major league baseball
it's interesting.
Dynamic and part of the Oakland A's franchise.
I tell people it's a small world.
A crazy coincidence.
It's a real small world in comedy.
It
sometimes
really is.
You run into people that we were talking about the gig up in the Upper Peninsula that you book at the church, the bar church.
Yeah.
Church of the Bar.
Church in the Valley
Whereas,
bar.
I go to they tell everybody to sign the food truck, and you go out to sign the food truck, and it's shoot, why am I spacing? Whose name was on it?
Sam Talent.
Sam Talent's name's on it, and you're like, yeah, I used to play shows with Sam Talent back in the day. You've got all these stories. It's like,
yeah,
it's a really small
I gave
world.
him my sequenced wrestling robe.
It's a really small world. There's not a ton of us traveling around doing this all over the country, for sure.
And I think that's another reason why it's important to maintain just a positive attitude and I always just practice what I call the friendly and cool method. I just try to be friendly and cool with everybody because you never know who you're going to run into 20 years later.
Sure, right? Yeah. Be easygoing, be fun to work with. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and just by being genuine.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're nice, but that they're not they're not really necessarily fun to hang out with. They're nice, they're okay, but I've always just tried to be friends with everybody, and I never really concerned myself too much with like trying to get over someone or get to the next level.
Some people are super competitive.
Yeah, and I am too, but just not in that way.
Yeah.
I'm competitive with me. I don't compare myself to you. I don't compare myself to Joe. I don't compare myself to anybody else. I compare myself to what I did yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I try to do for sure.
And, to me, that's more of also a locker room mentality than a green room mentality.
Yeah. Well, I love, if you haven't been to one of these bar comedy shows, go check it out, barcomedyusa.com. And if you own an establishment, let's say you're the type of place, oh man, I love pitching this to bar owners and stuff. If you're the type of place, you got a local music night, something like that, you want to spice it up, want to change it up without breaking the bank, oh man.
Yeah.
Book a bar comedy show. Jer-Dog will send you just week after week, month after month, he'll send a great comic out to you. And
you want something new and different for your regulars. You want something that is going to attract the general public and to boost business, maybe on a hit or miss night.
Yeah.
That's what we try to do. I try not to go to places where they're already got, great Friday night going. Like here in Wisconsin, it's like a state law to have a Friday fish fry.
Yeah.
We're rarely going to bring a comedy show to a bar in Wisconsin on a Friday.
Yeah.
But if it's like a Wednesday and they're like, Wednesdays could use a little bit of improvement. Wednesdays is great to bring in.
Let's go crush a Wednesday.
And you'll be the talk of the town. Your dentist will be renamed.
Some of these are getting good too. I've said like there's a handful of these that are like almost comedy club environments where you're booking the whole weekend sometimes, multiple shows in a day. It's like it doesn't take long for these bars to catch on at like, oh, here's how you run a comedy show. It's different than your music night or your dart tournament or something.
It's actually a pretty simple formula. There's just a lot of details to it you got to get right. If you miss one of them, the whole thing could blow up on it, and it's embarrassing to everybody. And then, like you said, they're not going to do a return show, and then other comedians, we're just going to have to find new venues for them to go to. Something else that I wanted to do different was not just be like an agent. I want to be one of the players. So unlike baseball, if you're the GM of the team, you can't just go put the uniform on.
You used to be back in the day. You could be the manager and trot out on the field. What was the last guy who did that? It was probably back in the 20s or something.
And now they still wear the uniform as like homage to that tradition.
Yeah, but Dave Roberts ain't out there taking cuts.
No. But I always wanted to be that. I wanted to be the GM who also can play.
Yeah.
And, he says that in the movie. He's like, I never heard a general manager talk to players that way before. He's like, you never seen a general manager who was a player.
Oh, boy, yeah.
And when I was coming up, there weren't very many bookers or club owners there were a few, but not very many that also did it.
Yeah, so that's a huge difference.
So they would say this or that. I'm like, at first when I was young, I would take it as advice. But then after I started learning a few things myself, I'm like, it doesn't sound like jack shit about comedy. Like what the hell is this guy doing? So
that's frustrating.
Like, I want to be the guy that not only can do it, but also understands and respects what it's actually like to be on the road. It's very tough. It sounds glamorous at first. But when you're in a different hotel, different quality each night, very little sleep, 8 hours drive,
it's tough.
And you still got to get up there and crush it for an hour.
It's tough.
Yeah, like if it's someone like me who's done that, and I understand what that's like, when it comes to someone like you and you have a problem, I want to be there ready to help you out.
And shout out. Let me compliment you for sure. You've been my favorite dude to work with for sure, just on a performer booker basis. And every time there's been an issue, it's not been a do this, do that. It's been a you sit tight, I'll handle this. And sit in your car, I'll call you back in 5 minutes, and then you call back and then everything's fixed. It's been something like that. And then you working with enough people in this business, you run into enough crazy people to make you really appreciate the guys who know what's going on.
Like I said, there's going to be mistakes all the time. It's always imperfections. And so the biggest compliment I can give to road warriors such as yourself is put them in a book like this. Even more like anything else I can do, like to teach you how to do better merchandise, anything that I can use my experience to help anybody else, which you find some of that in the industry, but I really want to make it my mission to, just like in the Moneyball, Billy Bean became more fascinated with helping take someone who's talented and turn them into a star, as opposed to recruiting a star from the get-go. That's kind of my philosophy as well. I want to find people who deserve the shot, help them do what they can to get to the next level, whatever that means to them, because we all have different goals. It's not always about how to become the next big thing on Netflix. Some of us might not want that.
Yeah. Well, I can't say thanks enough. Thanks for talking with me. This was awesome.
Yeah,
finally, the Derek Luna Show viewers have been pining for it.
And now I got to sneak out of here with my club foot and disappear into the limousine like Kaiser Soze.
With my club foot. Check out the book. Check out a Pub and Grub comedy tour show somewhere near you. How many locations you got rocking now?
Right now we got about 80 or 90
across the country.
All across the country at any given time. About 30 or 40 are running shows each month, and then some of them are every other month. Some of them are seasonal. But in general, it's a pretty. That's another thing. Is like back in the day, minor league teams you had 200 minor league teams all over the country, and they were independent.
Yeah.
So you could just go all over and just keep your skills sharp. I'm like, I want 100 venues across the country where we can keep our skills sharp.
Getting close.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
And now when I want a gig, I just put myself in the lineup.
Yeah, just throw yourself in the lineup.
Just put on the uniform and go out there and take some cuts.
I love this analogy. I'm picturing you with a big wad of tobacco with your foot up on the dugout. Be like, oh, hell, get me a bat. I'll get in there. Well, thanks for doing this. And, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking it out.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. Probably should have shot the intro out here, huh? Well, there it is. There it was. My interview with Jeremy Danley from Bar Comedy USA. And, hopefully that was inspirational to some folks. Look at it out here. It ain't so bad. You know, with the snow and whatnot. I was really bummed out earlier in the week, but we're going to take a little walk here. We're going to get our mind right. We're going to finish up our week in Wisconsin. And then what? We're heading to Ohio, where temperatures are slightly warmer. And then we're heading to Florida. We'll be in Sarasota, Florida for a couple of weeks. Kicking around Alabama after that. Hit me up for individual dates. I'll try to keep them up on my Instas and whatnot. But yeah, we're heading to warmer climes. It'll be too hot before you know it, you know? So maybe I take a minute to enjoy a nice cold spring morning walk along the Fox River here in beautiful Appleton, Wisconsin. Yeah, God forbid, right? Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking it out. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell somebody about it. Or don't. You know what I mean? I kind of like that it's just like 10 of us doing this every week. Don't tell anybody else. It's going to ruin it. Thanks for watching. Later, y'all.